Welcome to the Dance to Heal podcast. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. Join me as I share stories of how life is a dance. I'm a cancer survivor, mother of two, and an award-winning performer who found that mind and body-connected movement is vital to healing in a way that is safe and tailored to your life. I created Dance to Heal Wellness featuring the Spotlight Confidence Formula and also authored the best-selling award-winning book, Outside In Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I will bring new ways to help you on your dance journey and healing path. Are you ready to move? Dance to Heal starts now. Hello, welcome to the Dance to Heal podcast. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen, and I am so excited that we have Julie Turner today. Now, she's a dancer, mother, and domestic abuse survivor who used movement as a powerful tool to heal from PTSD. She's also the founder of the Movement Effect, a nonprofit bringing trauma-informed fitness and wellness into domestic violence shelters to support healing from mothers and children. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, where are you based out of right now?
I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Okay. And would you say, in terms of your work, it's more needed now than ever?
Yes, I would say it's definitely, I don't know if it's more needed now than ever, but it's more recognized now than it ever has been. I think a lot of people are starting to understand the power behind movement in terms of dance or even just traditional exercise. And so I think right now is a pivotal time for movement practitioners to get involved in cases like this.
Yes. So just so we're on an even understanding, will you please define for my community how you define how trauma lives in the body and what movement can do about it?
Yes. So, and it's actually a kind of a hot topic right now, especially in the mental health community, because a lot of movement practitioners and there's been a huge growth in somatic movement. And a lot of people are practicing that these days. We have this sort of back and forth conversation about where does trauma live, in the brain or in the body? And it's, for me, I'm like, well, it's both. Right? Like it's, if you're saying it only lives in the brain, I think you're just more focused on the brain activity. And if you're saying it's more in the body, I think you're just more focused on the body activity, but it is both things. One plays off of the other. So for me and for the particular community that I serve, it's acute trauma and it often has physical trauma associated with it. So domestic abuse often comes with domestic violence, physical abuse. It doesn't always, but it often comes with that. Also can come with sexual abuse, and some trauma survivors have a history of more than one abusive pattern. It could have been, multiple abusive partners. It could have been an abusive family. It could have been sexual abuse in their history. So the trauma is physical. And a lot of times when you have that acute experience, you really have the physiological symptoms of, anxiety or trauma or PTSD that get trapped in a physical cycle of these symptoms like happening over and over in your body. And the other thing that happens a lot, very common, I don't want to generalize and say it happens for everybody this way, but in a lot of the people that I serve, it happens this way. You become physically hypervigilant. You become hyper aware of every single physical sensation that is happening inside your body. So that alone can bring your focus into what's happening inside your body way more than anything else. And so it shows up in a myriad of ways. For myself, my experience was always, heart palpitations, like I was convinced I had underlying heart disease, even though I was, 27 years old, dancing regularly, very healthy, exercising. I was convinced because my heart was racing all the time. I had pains up and down my arms. You can experience with digestive issues, sweating, just general like aches and pains in the legs. People have talked about a myriad of ways that it can show up. So that's kind of, I want to press on this, that it's the physiological response inside the body to what's happening inside your brain when you get triggered and you feel that trauma is replaying inside your life.
So I want to also include people who are verbally abused to the point that it feels like it's physical. We have some of those in my community, and also I've done dance all my life just like you. I love dance, Julie, and sometimes I realize how non-trauma informed my old teachers were.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the old school, like, your teacher becomes your mother. Please don't do that anymore, people.
No,
Your
please
teacher should not
don't.
be your
Please
mother.
don't.
No, 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 no,
Healthy
because there's
boundaries,
like,
please.
yeah, please have boundaries, right? So, will you please help my audience in understanding what a trauma-informed approach and movement is from your perspective?
Yes. Okay, so I want to also address the first part of your statement when you were saying that verbal abuse and mental abuse can get to the point where it feels physical. And that is very true. I want to be very clear that abuse, the pattern of abuse, is psychological. It is the way someone treats you. It may or may not end up physical. Oftentimes, it only ends up physical once the abuser feels like they're losing control of the situation and they're losing their power over you, and then they try to hold you with that physical abuse because it tends to make the survivor or the victim feel more afraid to leave. And oftentimes, again, I don't want to generalize, but oftentimes the most dangerous point for a victim is when they make the decision to leave or when they first try to leave, because that's when it sets the abuser off and they will do anything to try to pull that person back into their orbit. Right? So abuse is psychological. And so that's where we can kind of go back into, yes, this stuff is happening inside our brain because we have that fight or flight response inside our brain when someone pushes us to the point where we start to feel like we're no longer safe. And this happens in a lot of ways. It's not just physical, it happens emotionally all the time. Even in relationships that are not abusive, you have a fight or flight response when you start to feel like, oh, I'm going to find myself even in the same emotional pain that I might have experienced before. Your body goes into that response, and then you usually have physical symptoms that come from that. And then you have the physiological response as well. So when I'm teaching trauma survivors, the most important thing the number one to be trauma informed, I think, is to, especially in this situation, is to know your scope of practice. All right. So if I'm showing up to teach movement, I want to make sure that that is what I'm teaching. Now, I have a background in a different way. I understand a lot about the nervous system, how it works inside the body. When I'm working with abuse survivors, I've been in their shoes. So I speak to them from my own experience a lot because it helps them to see, oh, hey, she's been there. But I try not to put any blanket terms over what they're experiencing, because that is where it can become dangerous. I can say, oh, I'm trauma informed, but what that really means is I've got to know where my place is and where my limits are. If I'm there to teach them movement, I'm explaining to them certain things, like this type of movement can make you feel this way. This type of movement will wake your body up. If you're feeling anxious, you might need to do, more of a yoga or Pilates practice, dance practice, a full body movement to sweat, to get it out. But if you're feeling sluggish and lethargic, maybe you need to do some HIIT or circuit training or weightlifting to really pump your body up. So me being able to define what type of movement they might be able to do, but I also bring a lot of different things into. I teach a group class at this shelter that I'm primarily working at, but I bring in all sorts of different types of movement and exercise and dance, and I say, what is it that you feel your body responds to better? Right? Because that way they can start leaning on the tools themselves, and they can start trusting themselves again, trusting their bodies again, and using their own intuition to guide them into what type of movement they have to do. Now, the other thing, and this is the other third, very important component to it, is that if somebody, I don't try to go in there and make them bend to whatever it is that I want to do. I need to be very understanding and patient that somebody might walk into the room on the morning of the class and just really be in a bad place. And if I notice, I mean, we're human beings. You notice when somebody's not right, when they're not feeling well, when they look down, when you can tell they've been crying, or when they look anxious or on edge. We don't push them to try to tell you what it is or get involved in it. You just let them do what they can, and you hold the space for them and you support them. And remember, again, back to your scope of practice, what are you there to do? You're there to teach movement, right? So you teach the movement, you allow them to be where they need to be.
That's a brilliant answer, Julia. Thank you so much for being so consistently clear and reminder about the scope of practice, because oftentimes there's such a lack of boundaries in dance classes that teachers forget, dance instructors forget, we're not responsible for every single thing happening in that person's life at that moment. We're just opting to teach them something. And if it's around something that you're not equipped to handle, refer them to the professionals who do it. All right, because I'm just speaking from my personal experience. When I first started doing the whole art of belly dance, I had instructors that wanted to become like my mother, or they would talk about there being a family. Family is very loaded, y'all. So
Yes.
if we're going into the setting like we're all family, then there's oftentimes people will destroy their own boundaries to be a part of the family. And I love that you're encouraging people to learn their own interception, learning their own signals, understanding their bodies better. You want them to start that conversation if they never had one. Oh, I just love what you do. Audience members, remember, you're welcome to help Julie in any way. You're going to go to her website at themovementeffect.org. I'm going to spell that out for you. TheMovementEffect.org. And you can either donate or partner with her in any way. All right, back to my questions for you, because I love hearing you speak on this. You're very passionate, Julie. Now, I know you're a dancer. I'm a dancer. We know how helpful dance is. Specifically, though, for you, when you talk about movement as medicine and restoring it for choice, strength, and safety, what have you seen it do in helping your particular community?
So, all right. So we know two of us, we love dancing. I think a lot of people love dancing. There's entire dance communities. We're incredibly passionate about it. We'll never stop, right? And we also know that a lot of types of exercise do a lot of things for us. I mean, we have the things that we all kind of know, very common knowledge. They get the endorphins flowing. They make you feel good. It helps your body produce mitochondria, which helps you build energy. So, if you think, oh, I'm too tired to work out, well, just start working out, because then you'll get more energy, right? So there's all those things, and that's kind of common knowledge. But movement, and particularly complex movement that involves the whole body and can make your body warm, get you sweating, and works your muscles, it can balance your nervous system physically, right? And I want to be clear about this again, and harping on the scope of practice thing. I'm not a licensed therapist, and I don't claim to be, right? And I don't want to take anybody away from their licensed therapist. Like, you should do that work as well. You should be in therapy as well, going through the mental load. But when you are and for my survivors and for myself included, when you're in that state, that fight or flight response, and you can get stuck there, it becomes a chronic condition. Once that hypervigilance starts to set in, and if you are experiencing PTSD from your experience, or if you just have an anxiety disorder, or you just have heightened anxiety chronically, you can find yourself in this physical cycle where you're having all those symptoms, like the nervous feeling, the nervous stomach, the heart palpitations, the cold sweat, the horrible feeling in your stomach, headaches, dizziness. There's lots of things that can come from this, right? So what movement can do is it relieves those physical symptoms, because it helps to align your body and it balances those symptoms out. So doing the hour long or 45-minute long, exercise class or dance class, you can temporarily relieve those physical symptoms. And that would be the perfect moment for you to connect with your therapist or go into your group or journal, whatever mental process and emotional process you're going through. That would be the perfect moment to get clarity on what your experience actually is. Because when we're stuck in that physical space of fight or flight, you cannot see clearly. It's like looking through mud. You can't see the forest or the trees. You can't see anything. You don't really know what's going on because you have a lens over your eyes, and that lens is fear. Right. And so when you can get yourself physically into a grounded place where you feel balanced, that removes that lens and you start to see things a little bit clearly. I'm not saying that the answers all come instantly. I mean, it takes years sometimes, or, could be months for you. But that is how movement works to help you get to a place where you can then start understanding the mental and emotional things you're going through as well.
Yes, I resonate with this answer. I mean, I personally not only have a therapist that specializes in complex PTSD, so like PTSD from childhood, because I didn't even want to admit to myself that I didn't have a perfect childhood. I was like the case study of like how to look at your life with rose-colored lenses. I would gaslight
Yeah.
myself into gratitude for my childhood, right? When I had so much to deal with. And for me, the biggest thing has been I have so much support behind the scenes. People see me as very grounded. I'm like, because I have an entire team. Like, I'm sure you do
Agreed.
too, right, Julie? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have a therapist and a psychotherapist that specializes in neuroscience of dance. Like, I have so many people keeping me grounded and stable in addition to my daily self care. That doesn't even include
Right.
other people, right? And you have something similar, don't you, Julie?
Yes. And it's super important. And I forgot to mention this one thing I wanted to, because this is a huge thing that I've been hitting on lately, because a lot of people, when they first started talking about the healing powers of movement, there's this kind of misnomer that went out there that was all about, getting still and calming down and taking deep breaths. And I was like, you know what? That does not work. I was like, something's wrong with me because I can't just take a deep breath and make this panic attack go away. I was like, I'm not doing it right for years and years and years. Finally, I realized that's not the truth. And this is another way that movement has been really crucial. I realized that for myself, part of my, fight or flight response was that I would get, adrenaline pumps through. So you think about what the fight or flight response is for, it's, for, where your brain signals you're in danger, and your physical body's response to being in danger is to run or fight or freeze. Those are the three big ones that people talk about, and there's lots of nuances to that, so I'm not claiming to give you all the nuances right now, disclaimer. But the fight or flight or freeze, then there's adrenaline that's pumping through your body. Well, okay, that was appropriate during hunting gathering days, for example, when you were being chased by something, or you had to go hunt something down, or you had to fight for your life. But now, and a big part about abusive situations is, like you said, mental and emotional, that our fight or flight response is responding to emotional insecurity, to emotional scaring, emotional danger, right? So that's what we're responding to. So our body doesn't necessarily need to turn around and fight. I mean, it might have to run, but it doesn't necessarily need to do that. So when you don't have to do that, the adrenaline gets stuck in your body. So that's another way that movement, in particular dance, can really help, because it moves the adrenaline through you and out. So then it's no longer stuck in there. So I wanted to bring that up because I forgot to mention it to the last question. That's been super important for me. And I've been really trying to explain that to people a lot lately, because nervous system regulation, for lack of a better word, is not only about calming down. It's about helping you understand the full range of emotions that you are feeling, and helping you get to a place where physically you're able to handle them and process them and move through them.
Excellent point. I learned in the last 2 years that breath work actually can trigger people. And I actually, me teaching breath work, I realized I was triggered when I wasn't the one giving the cues. And for a lot
Yeah,
of people, we don't realize that, because for me, if I'm in a group setting at some public place and someone goes into breath work, old me would freeze and fawn. I would just do it
yeah.
because that's what was expected
That's what we're
all
supposed
my
to do.
life, right? And now I don't. Like if
Standard.
I'm in a class and I was at an intensive in LA, and teacher's amazing. And she wanted us all to partner each other and stretch each other. And I was like, absolutely not. I don't want anyone touching me.
Mm-mm.
I love
No,
you
thank
all. We
you.
danced together for the last 3 days, but you are not going to pull me into a stretch because my body doesn't want it. Like, I
Right?
don't, none of you are trauma informed. I love you all, but you're not. So no one's touching me. And what's really interesting with that regards is we're allowed to say no and not have to fight about it. That's
Yeah.
part of what I love you giving us reminder and permission to do. And you started to talk about the nervous system, and I everyone has such slightly different definitions of it, and I want to go back to your definition of it. Like when you're referring to the nervous system regulation, you emphasize that it isn't just about calming down. Now, can you explain the differences and why that matters for you when you're working
Yeah.
with people?
Well, it matters for me, and I think it matters for a lot of people, um, especially women. All right, because I mean, is it different now? I don't know. Let's hope so. And maybe it's a little different now for our younger girls, right? But for at least for my generation, for people older than us, like we are not allowed to have emotions, right? If we are a woman in business, if you get angry, then you're the angry monster, bee lady. You know what I mean? If we cry, we're too emotional and not emotionally able to handle anything. And I don't want to discard men's experience as well, because I will say this, that they also have had struggles, especially our generations and above. They're not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to they're allowed to, but they are allowed to be angry, which is a difference. We are supposed to be docile and calm, resilient and strong, and all the things, and not ever express our emotions. And so when we reduce nervous system regulation to calming down, we further the oppression of people. And I'll say people in general, not just women, but people of color, like indigenous people. Like when we tell people they're supposed to be calm, when we tell them things have happened to you, but you're still supposed to react in a calm way, you're oppressing people, right? But that's not fair, right? We don't always have to be calm. You're allowed to get angry. Now, in a civilized society, we have rules. We can't let our anger take over completely. I can't just go like running around hitting things and screaming in public and stuff like that. So I have to learn what my anger does inside my body and how to express it in an appropriate way. And that's what regulation really is about, right? Learning that anger is okay, learning that sadness is okay, being able to have the capacity to sit inside my body when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I'm feeling scared, when I'm feeling angry, when I'm feeling sad, and being able to sit inside those emotions and being able to bring my body back to regulation so that it doesn't completely floor me or cause me to erupt, out in the space. And then if I am angry at someone, then I am allowed to express that anger and be angry. And that's part of regulation of the nervous system. And I think it's such an important distinction to make, because there's so many people that are selling this idea that we can just like be calm all the time. And if I'm talking to someone, if I have conflict with someone, I should be speaking to them like this in a calm manner. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm mad and I'm going to say it with passion so that you understand that I'm angry. I won't be mean. I won't call you names. You know what I mean? I won't hit you, but I do need you to know that I have expression inside my body. And I think a lot of people, deserve to be able to show that. And back to the community that I serve, when you are working with the people that have been abused, they have had everything taken from them emotionally and mentally. Everything. They are reduced to nothing inside their own minds. They have had their autonomy, their agency, their bodies completely, a lot of times their money, sometimes their children, completely taken from them. So if we want to really be informed about their trauma, we have to try to give it back. We have to try to allow them to have agency, allow them to have experience, and understand what sensations they're feeling inside their body, because repression of any emotion at all causes the nervous system to remain in an unstable place.
Yes. And now there's even scientific research backing that it leads to disease for us.
Yeah.
Long term. Like, if we're not actually addressing how elevated our cortisol levels are all the time, our bodies lose the ability to. Thanks for listening to the Dance to Heal podcast with Jenny C. Cohen. Come back next time to hear stories of inspiring triumph and learn more ways that you can heal yourself. To work with me and continue your journey, visit danceandheal.com. Are you ready to move?